I'd like to go back in time and revisit one of the fan favorites from the Badass Agile library, and that's talking about the 13 principles of badass elite leadership. Come join me. That's this week on the Badass Agile podcast. Greetings, team. Welcome to the Badass Agile podcast. I'm your host, Chris Williams. Greetings, everybody. Welcome back. Great to see you. Thank you for tuning in. Going way back to March 2017, I created a list of the qualities of a badass leader. And it was one of the favored episodes and one that people who reach out to me often refer back to. So I thought it'd be a great time to welcome new listeners, just to reach back so you don't have to rewind through some 300 episodes to find it, and talk about these qualities. But more importantly, for those of you who've been with us for a while, it's a great time to revisit and strengthen these things. So before we dig in, let's take a moment to remember why we're here. To create an elite tribe of leaders who truly serve their clients and communities by doing what matters and what works, relentlessly chasing value and excellence like a badass. There's so many resources out there about what you need to do to be agile, but we're focused on who you need to become in order to lead teams. So let's hammer down those fundamentals to create a truly unique and powerful force in this industry. And remember, guys, if this helps you, just tell your friends. Now, let's dig in on these. So as I go through them, what I'd like you to do is choose the ones that you think resonate with you. They're usually going to be ones where you feel like you might be gapped or where you're not living the quality full out. And when that happens, I just want you to make a note of the number and the name of the principle or principles that interest you most, that you would most like to develop. And I want you to start measuring yourself on your fidelity to these values, on your ability to live and sustain these values. Let's make this the year where you commit to improving, accelerating, refining, and developing your leadership game. Now, this is critically important for anyone who wants to stand out amidst the ever-growing population of Agile practitioners, people who want to be Scrum Masters, people who want to be coaches, or people who simply want to get better at leading from within your teams and beyond. So let's go through these one by one. I'll give a quick explanation and a couple of tips where appropriate. So the first one is that a badass has a compelling picture of the future. They know what they want and they know what they stand for. This goes back to simply being visionary. That means know what you want to do. Not only should you be living your life with some sense of purpose, if you can, at least if you can figure out what it is that you do or who you are, at least narrow it down to whether or not you're someone who heals people, helps people, teaches people, solves creative problems. Whatever it is that you enjoy doing, whatever it is that gives you meaning, whatever it is that lights you up, we want to make sure that you focus on doing more of that and less of the things that you don't like. Let's play in our heat zone, the place where our skills and our passions intersect, so that we can add the most value with the most efficient expenditure of energy. I think that's one of the reasons why I think vision is so important, is that if you know what you like, if you know what you do, if you understand your sense of purpose, you've identified the things that you can do in your sleep, the things that you can do with the minimum expenditure of energy, and you should spend as much time doing those things as you can allow for. This really is the secret to productivity, spending the most time doing the things that give you the most fulfillment, because that's how you're going to create the most value. Now, it applies not only at the life level, but also at the individual interaction, event, or daily level. So not only should you be intentional and have a compelling picture of the future for 10, 20, 50 years out, but you should have a compelling picture of the future for 10 or 15 minutes from now. Otherwise, you're doing what? You're just kind of walking through life, taking it wherever other people lead you, which is something that leaders can't afford to do all the time. You have to be able to go into meetings and know what you want to get out of it. You have to be able to go into interactions and know what you want to get out of it. And furthermore, in the Badass Agile way, we say that this is made so much easier if you think of everything from a perspective of service. I want to know what I'm going to get out of this meeting, but not so much what I'm going to get personally, but how can I serve others in the next 15 to 30 minutes with this meeting? What outcomes can I produce? What value could I add? So that's the practice. And for those of you who don't know what your compelling picture is, that's okay. Your task is to keep chopping away at it. Think about it, reflect on it for 15 minutes a day. Trust me, something will emerge. Now here's the second quality. A badass doesn't care what other people think. This one is ridiculously important, and I'm warning you, it's a practice. You have to work on it. No one gets up and says, I am independent and free from the judgment of others and the emotional impact it has on me. That's nonsense. This takes work. It takes focus. It takes consistency over time. And it starts with a mantra that what other people think of me is none of my business. First of all, 9 times out of 10, you read what other people think incorrectly. So it's fed by fear and manifests as misunderstanding, or worse, the feeling of not being good enough in the eyes of other people. The reality is, and you can prove this to yourself, is that people aren't thinking about you as much as you think they are. How do I know? Well, how many people at work are you thinking about and judging right now as you sit here listening to this? The chances are none. How many people were you thinking about and judging 5 minutes ago? Same answer. You see what I'm getting at? Generally speaking, people are involved in their own worlds and their own concerns. So it's a good bet that people are not judging you as much as you think they are. But here's another truth. When people judge you negatively, more often than not, it's out of fear that you will surpass or exceed them. Negative criticism, harsh or mean criticism, and judgment is usually a byproduct of our own fears of not being good enough, which we then transmit onto other people by being judgmental. I think this principle is more of an awakening than it is a practice, in that you have to reflect and remind yourself that this is the truth. This is where judgment and negativity comes from. And the other thing you have to remember is that if you're strong with purpose and vision, what others think can't possibly matter, because nothing should stop you from achieving your mission. All right, number 3, doesn't care about positional authority. This one can be contentious, but I make it bold on purpose, because it's only through bold statements that I can inspire bold action. And the bold action here is for you to step into your fear zone and get used to working with and handling people who have a bigger title than you, who occupy a position of authority or influence, especially people who you think determine whether you have a job to go to tomorrow. The reality is this. If, once again, you're strong with vision and you're locked in on your sense of service, you are automatically doing good. You are seeking to add value to others. You're not going into rooms having conversations with the intention of being right, with the intention of being heard, with the intention of appearing special. You're trying to serve. You're trying to help your customers perform at their best. You're bringing your skill sets to bear to give them the gift of being an agile organization. When you look at it that way, there's no such thing as title or authority. And hey, if you're working for someone who would fire you because of your passion, because of your beliefs, then you're already working for the wrong person anyway. And the chances are good you'll have a hard time finding happiness there. So why not be free? Speak your truth, disagree, make your voice heard. So this one's easy to practice. All you have to do is notice when you're feeling that fear, when you're afraid to say something. There's something you want to say, but you're deciding, I should keep my mouth shut because this won't be popular. When that happens, when you feel that happening, ask yourself the question, is what I'm about to say helpful, necessary, and driven by purpose and service? And if the answer is yes, you know what you got to do? You got to stick your neck out. Now here's the next one, number 4. A badass doesn't rest until they're the best. Continuous improvement is not just something we teach. It should be something we do. So how do you build this skill? Easy. Sit down every day and do a retrospective on yourself. What did you intend? How did you perform? Where do you need to improve? Now the point here is not to try to get better in a day. The point here is to set out on a lifelong adventure in which you're continuously inspecting your game and pushing yourself to close your gaps, build your skill, build your mindset, increase positivity and reduce negativity. And over time, you'll notice that you slowly build to become more, to do more. And that's how you become the best. Number 5, you're always in complete control of your state, emotional, physical, mental. Everything that you do and say oozes badass and you don't even have to try. Well, this one takes a little more work, but it's related to some things we've discussed already. Know your purpose. Know your service. Do you see a pattern here? This ain't something you can fake. This is something that you have to be. But this little technique can really serve you if you care to learn it and master it. And that is to notice what's your emotional state, what's your physical state, what things are running around in your mind as you're going about your work. Do you hear words of self-doubt and self-judgment? Is your body tense? Are you sweating? Are you trembling? Is your voice shaking? What about your emotional state? Do you feel the sensation of fear, hopelessness, uncertainty, inadequacy? Notice those things and don't worry if you can't improve them in a day. Nobody can. But simply being aware of them puts you a step ahead of just about everyone else you're ever going to meet. This is a hard skill to master, but if you can stop and pay attention just for a second in the middle of a difficult conversation, in the middle of a presentation, or even in the middle of your drive home at the end of the day, and notice, what do I feel in my body? What do I feel emotionally? And what do I hear rolling around in my mind? Just do a spot check. And then the next step is seeing if you can change it. If you're tense, relax. If there's a story running around in your mind, stop it. Think about something else. If there's an emotional feeling in your gut or any other part of your body, can you reverse it? Can you flip it? Can you redirect it to something more useful? Maybe taking a moment to be grateful about everything that you have and everything around you could allow you to release those feelings of anxiety, doubt, depression, whatever you may be feeling in the moment, and maybe simply by choosing to change it, you could notice a difference. Number 6, a badass is already good enough. Wait, what? Didn't you just say we should always be getting better, won't rest until they're the best? That's absolutely true, but remember, being good enough means wherever you are right now is perfect for right now. It's great to want to be better, but there is nothing about where you are in the current moment that means you're deserving of disapproval or dismissal by other human beings. So you don't need to care about getting approval of other people because your sense of approval comes from within. If you can master that skill, then you're on your way to building massive, elite-level confidence. And the best way to master this skill is not necessarily to go and do things that other people applaud so that you can feel like you're good enough, but to know that you're good enough simply by remembering this simple fact is that you are where you are right now, and you cannot be anywhere else. You can seek to improve tomorrow or 5 minutes from now, but the future isn't here yet. In this current moment, you are exactly everything that you can be. All your experiences, all your knowledge, all your skill has brought you to this moment. And while you have a ton of growth to do, you've already done a lot of it. So accept where you are, but take comfort in the fact that by doing things like listening to this podcast, you're committed to continuous growth. Okay, number 7, you're unafraid to fail and to be wrong, to learn by experimentation, and to be completely accountable for your mistakes. This one takes practice, but it also takes mindset. When you experiment, you are likely to have some failures. In fact, there's precious little you can do about that. It's unavoidable, so your only choice is to run away and hide and never venture, but you will also never gain. Now here's the deal. If you don't actually believe that it's okay to be wrong, that some experiments will fail, and that experimentation is the only way you can learn, and that Agile is all about learning, and when things go wrong, the world won't blow up. If you don't believe those things, how do you expect to teach it to others? No one is going to buy what you're selling if you're always playing it safe and shying away from the tough decisions. So this is a must. But once again, if you can lean into the skill, if you can master it and at least develop it, especially if you can be fearlessly accountable when things go wrong, people are going to see you as someone who is fearless, someone who's limitless, someone who's badass, and someone they can trust. Which leads me to number 8, always go first. That's right. Lean into uncertainty. Lean into adversity. Be the person who says, I'll do it. I'll try it. Let me go first. If it doesn't work, I'll take the hit. That quality to me is the definition of the word leadership. Wouldn't you say? A leader is a person who goes first. So important. And then there's number 9, never quit. Well, this one relates to number 5. If you're in control of or at least aware of your emotional states, you'll know that moment when things get so hard that you say to yourself, I just want to get out of here. I just want to quit my job. I just want to leave. I want to go home early. I want to pretend this isn't here. I want to hope this goes away. I want to blame somebody so I can walk away. All of those things are a quitter's attitude. And if you want to be a badass, if you want to lead, if you want to be able to summon and display that strength, that internal fortitude that will make other people follow your lead and model your behavior for the benefit of the team, for the benefit of the client, then you have to be fearless and you have to never quit. Which means the moment that you're sensing or hearing those scripts in your head saying, not me, man, I want out of here. I tried, it didn't work, moving right along. That's when you summon the courage to keep pushing, to keep going forward. All right, number 10, a badass values their time as a precious commodity. The easiest way to do this is to practice saying no. Do you want to come to this meeting? Well, what's it for? Well, it's just to discuss status. No. Should we spend an hour shooting out different browsers to see which one's the fastest? Well, if it's not something that's valuable to the team or the organization, then no. Learn to say no to things of low value. When you do that, you're announcing to the world that your time is precious and it's not to be trifled with. Now, it's not saying you don't have time for people. In fact, as a leader, the time that you spend coaching, mentoring, and listening to other people is probably one of the best ways to use your time. But the things that don't add value to the team's mission or to your personal vision or intention, you got to learn how to carve them out or people will soak up your time with low-value things that don't move you or the team closer to your goals. Number 11, a badass doesn't value certainty or safety, so they break rules repeatedly. They live and learn best at the edge of their fears. This is how you grow. Are you willing to lean into that zone where the outcomes are uncertain, where there's no proof that you're any good at it, and that you very well may fail? Now remember what failure means a lot of the time. It means when you're asking for something, you'll be rejected. How we interpret that as human beings is that if I'm rejected, I'm worthless. The sooner you can disassemble that mess of wiring that's been hard-coded into you, the better. If you ask for a meeting or ask for an audience or ask for a sale or ask for someone to swim along with you, to support your initiatives and ideas, and they say no, they might say yes next time, or there may be a compromise you can work on. But the point is, if you value certainty and safety so much that you never ask, guess what happens? So every once in a while, throw yourself in harm's way a little. Jump across the creek instead of taking the long way around. Stand up on the table despite the fear that you might fall, and see what the world looks like from up there. It's easy to start practicing, but you got to force yourself to do a little bit of it every day. Now, number 12, maintain humor and levity. When things get tough, start laughing. If nothing else, it's infectious. It displays a positive mental attitude that others will respect and react to. Things get gritty, get funny. And finally, number 13, a badass never apologizes for who they are. Take the word sorry out of your vocabulary. You never say sorry for showing up as a badass, for having a stand, for having a vision, for being courageous, for being someone who leaps. Get loud, get proud, get badass. So I hope these things inspire you in a time when we could use a little bit of inspiration, a little walk backwards through the vault, to stay close to our values. And the reason why we created this podcast in the first place is to generate better leaders of courage and action and distinction and to create heroes. Thank you, friend, for tuning in. It's good to see you. You can reach out at badassagile.com or find me on Twitter at badass_agile. I look forward to seeing you next time, and until then, stay badass.